In this training, we will cover current policy for the gradual return to face-to-face programming and the approval process for volunteer events. Following these topics, there will be a 3-question check for understanding. Any in-person event requires exceptions approved by educators and extension leadership. This module corresponds to the checklist that covers requirements for events and is used to request an exemption to hold an in-person event. Therefore, it will be important for you to have your ducks in a row before proceeding. Prior to having your event approved, your extension educator will provide you with a copy of the Extension Infectious Disease Preparedness and Response Plan for volunteers and events. It includes detailed instructions for how to monitor for COVID-19 symptoms and how to respond to potential or confirmed occurrence of COVID-19. These expectations are a requirement of any volunteer leading an event until further notice. Please note that adherence to these guidelines is a critical part of the program approval process. Failure to do so will result in your in-person program not being approved. Following the purpose, rationale, and alternatives considered, you will learn about and need to answer questions about the in-person event you are proposing. These questions include facilities. Are they indoor or outdoor? Shared equipment. How will you handle limited sharing of equipment or supplies? Personal protection equipment. What supplies and signs will be required? Food. If it is necessary, how will safety practices be implemented? Marketing and registration. What language and information do you need to provide and collect? Transportation. If you provide transportation, what safety practices must be implemented? Arrival at the event. What do participants need to do as they arrive at the event? And during the event, what safety practices will be maintained throughout the event? Departing the event, what safety practices will be implemented as participants leave the event? And post-event, how is attendance taken and submitted? What happens if someone at your event tests positive for COVID-19? The safety practices referenced in the checklist and approval form refer to Extension's public health training video and is based on current CDC guidelines. Consult with your educator regarding whether your proposed event will be held indoors or outdoors. Different considerations are applicable depending on whether your proposed event will be held inside or outside. Be prepared to indicate which you propose and understand the requirements for each venue. Participants are required to wear a face covering in accordance with CDC guidelines and recommendations. Please note that some individuals may not be able to wear a face covering due to medical concerns, or they may have concerns related to face coverings and racial profiling. Please work with your educator if you feel this is a potential concern for your event. For outdoor events, face coverings are required when physical distancing is not possible. Events that must take place indoors will be under special review. Face coverings will be required for all participants. Please work with your educator if you have concerns about your indoor event, and note that some individuals may not be able to wear face coverings. In these instances, your educator will assist you in determining if an alternative delivery method is appropriate. Current recommended guidance from the Wisconsin Department of Health Services indicates that individuals should maintain separation of 6 feet or greater, in addition to wearing a face covering while indoors. For both indoor and outdoor events, please ensure the following. Tables, chairs, booths, etc. must be spaced at least 6 feet apart to ensure physical distancing. All unnecessary touch points, especially those that cannot be sanitized between uses, will be removed or blocked from use. Examples include benches, drinking fountains, and playground equipment. The facility you are using must be able to ensure that the cleaning of shared spaces meets recommendations by the CDC. You are responsible for and have a plan to wipe down any shared spaces or equipment before and after use. Additionally, be prepared to provide details regarding shared use facility space and any safety protocols partner sites may have implemented. To the extent possible, reduce the need for sharing equipment during programming. If shared equipment is needed and unavoidable, please be ready to provide a list of all necessary equipment or supplies you will be providing, how you will handle materials in order to limit sharing, and the protocols in place to thoroughly sanitize between uses. Here are the requirements for personal protective equipment at in-person events: hand sanitizing equipment, signs, protective face coverings, and gloves where necessary. If obtaining supplies is a barrier, work with your Extension educator. Extension will have limited quantities of PPE available for programs that are unable to provide their own. Make sure hand sanitizing equipment will be readily available and frequently used. Soap and water are preferred, but if not available, hand sanitizer with at least 60% alcohol should be provided. Other examples are tissues and no-touch trash cans. Signs for use at events will be posted on how to stop the spread of COVID-19. Contact your Extension educator for assistance with acquiring these signs for your event. Individuals will be asked to wear protective face coverings, and a supply of disposable face coverings will be available for those who do not bring their own. Face coverings are required when indoors, in spaces with other individuals, or where other individuals could be expected, or outdoors when maintaining 6-foot distancing might be difficult, for example, in a crowded space. Individuals may be required to leave for failure to comply. If you have questions in regards to face covering noncompliance, please contact the educator responsible for the event. Note that some individuals may not be able to wear a face covering due to medical concerns, or may have concerns related to face coverings and racial profiling. Cloth face coverings should not be worn by children under the age of 2 or anyone who has trouble breathing, is unconscious, incapacitated, or otherwise unable to remove the covering without assistance. Remember, at this time, a face covering is part of being kind to and taking care of each other. Gloves will be used when the nature of the work requires such. Note that in most cases, wearing gloves is not necessary. Additional resources related to how germs spread can be found both in the public health training and at the CDC website. Is food important for this event or programming? If so, be prepared to describe how it is important to the event. You have 2 options for food. Number 1, ask participants to bring their own food. Or number 2, provide prepackaged foods purchased from a grocery store or caterer. When prepackaged or catered food is provided, the following conditions must be observed. Individuals will only eat and drink their own food or beverages. No sharing outside of individuals' households. There are no common source touch points, like reaching for a slice of pizza, grabbing cookies out of a jar, or a package. Sharing pouring of beverage containers, or reaching into a cooler. Staff will use gloves when handling ready-to-eat foods. Disposable plates, cups, and utensils will be utilized. Preparing for event registration will require some new steps to accommodate participant density and safety. Event registration will include the following language: UW-Madison Division of Extension, faculty, staff, and volunteers may require that program participants leave a program based on health concerns associated with COVID-19. Registrants will be informed to stay home if they are experiencing any of the symptoms of COVID 19 or have had known contact with anyone with COVID 19 in the last 14 days. There are plans in place that are shared with registrants regarding cancellation and refund policy. Prior to the event, you must provide attendees with a thorough description of what to expect at the event. Note that this will allow those who are considered at high risk for severe COVID 19 illness to prepare accordingly or request appropriate accommodations. Consider and communicate any staggering of arrival and drop off times to limit contact between groups as possible. If the program will be responsible for arranging transportation, for example, renting a bus, the transportation company must provide for the following: enough space to physically distance, face coverings for all riders, and thorough cleaning of the vehicle before and after each use. At the event location, the following must be provided: sanitizer will be available at the door for use upon arrival and departure. Please work with your extension educator for assistance with this. On-site signage reminds participants to stay home if exposed to COVID 19 or experiencing symptoms and to maintain physical distancing. You must designate a person who is responsible for the check-in process. That person needs to verify or supply proper face coverings. They also need to confirm health status by asking participants if they are experiencing any of the symptoms of COVID 19. If they indicate yes, politely inform them of their ineligibility to attend or participate in the meeting or activity and encourage them to contact their healthcare provider. Let's review the currently known symptoms of COVID 19: fever or chills, cough, shortness of breath or difficulty breathing, fatigue, muscle or body aches, headache, new loss of taste or smell, sore throat, congestion or runny nose, nausea or vomiting, diarrhea. If the participants indicate yes to any symptom, politely inform them of their ineligibility to attend or participate in the meeting and encourage them to contact their healthcare provider. During the event, you'll want to consider the following guidelines. There must be a plan to minimize contact between groups. Social distancing will be maintained throughout the event. You may need to be creative with different icebreaker activities, roll calls, etc. All participants will be reminded to practice good hygiene and etiquette by avoiding touching their face, mouth, nose, eyes, and covering coughs and sneezes. The program event will not exceed 2 hours when indoors. There is no time limit for outdoor programming. Longer contact times increase potential exposure. Maximize time in large outdoor spaces if possible. Don't forget about what happens after your event has ended. Staggering participant departure is an easy way to encourage social distancing. Additionally, at the end of the event, everyone will be required to wash their hands or use hand sanitizer prior to leaving. If your program involves children, plan to maintain distancing while waiting for pickup and transitions. The person responsible for the event will complete a post-activity program report and contact log and submit a copy to the extension educator. Maintaining and storing the list will be important for facilitating contact tracing should it become necessary. Please be prepared to adapt practices if there are any additional updates in the future related to this process. If you learn that an extension employee, volunteer, or program participant has tested positive for COVID 19, contact your extension educator and cooperate fully with state and local health department contact tracing efforts. When talking someone down, you are transferring your sense of calm and genuine interest in what the participant wants to tell you. You are being respectful. You are setting clear limits in the hope that the participant actually wishes to respond positively to your respectful attention. Trust your instincts. If you assess or feel that de escalation is not working, stop. You'll know within 2 or 3 minutes if it's beginning to work. Tell the person to leave, escort them to the door, or call for help, or leave yourself and call the police. Now let's check what we've learned. Event registration will include the following language: UW Madison Division of Extension, faculty, staff, and volunteers may require that program participants leave a program based on health concerns associated with COVID-19. True or false? True. This language must be included on event registration based on the program planning policy and approval checklist. Tables, chairs, booths, etc. will be spaced at least 6 feet apart to ensure physical distancing. True or false? True. Social distancing will be maintained throughout the event based on the program planning policy and approval checklist. An indoor in-person program may exceed 6 hours. True or false? False. An in-person indoor program may not exceed 2 hours. Longer contact times increase potential exposure. There is no limit for outdoor programming, but maximize time in large outdoor spaces if possible. Thanks for being a volunteer. We appreciate your willingness to go the extra mile to provide education and safety.